I have no use for an old, washed-up wife in her 50s like you. I've lost all interest in you. So yeah, we're getting divorced.
My husband, who was caught cheating with a much younger woman, boldly declared his intention to divorce me. After my father passed away, he saw it as his lucky break and decided to make his move. But seriously, are this man and his mistress going to be okay? Do they even understand the basics of inheritance law? Not that it matters to me. Divorce, you say? Gladly. Even if you change your mind, it's too late now. My name is Holly. I married my husband Tom when I was 24, and it's been 30 years since then. Now, in my 50s, I've definitely aged. That said, I still feel young at heart and pretty energetic. Though let's be real, the increasing gray hairs and wrinkles do make me sigh sometimes.
Ugh.
And now, standing in front of me, sighing as he looks at me, is my husband Tom. At 56, he's 2 years older than me. Just like me, he's gained more gray hairs and wrinkles, and he's fully embraced the middle-aged man look. But since he was always a good-looking guy to begin with, his mature charm gives him a silver fox vibe. Meanwhile, I've aged in a way that's more age-appropriate, making me look like an ordinary older woman. Recently, people even mistake Tom for being younger than me. Maybe that's why he started sighing more often when he looks at me. He used to have this tough on the outside, sweet on the inside kind of personality, but lately, his words have been outright cutting.
Holly, can't you try to look a little younger?
Just because he thinks he looks young, he says the most hurtful things. And sadly, the sweet side has disappeared altogether. I try not to dwell on it too much. It's just depressing if I do. Anyway, today's a rare day off, and the weather outside is absolutely beautiful. So, I suggest an outing to my husband. Hey, Tom, it's such a nice day. Why don't we go somewhere?
Go where?
Maybe a movie or something.
You can watch a movie even when the weather's bad, and there's nothing I want to see right now.
Okay, then how about the park?
What are we even going to do at a park? Sounds exhausting.
How about shopping then?
I don't have anything I want to buy.
Well, how about?
Forget it.
No matter what I suggested, he shot it down, leaving me stumped and racking my brain. But before I could come up with my next idea, Tom stood up abruptly. Huh, you're not eating breakfast anymore? There's still bread left, you know.
I've told you, I'm an oatmeal for breakfast guy. You should have remembered that by now. Forget it, I'll eat out.
Oh, then I'll come with you.
You ruin the peace and quiet of a Sunday morning. Don't follow me.
Wait, Tom. Without even listening to my protests, my husband walked out the door. My outstretched hand grasped nothing but air before dropping down slowly. Sigh, here we go again. This is how it's been lately. Tom always heads out on his own for one reason or another. I'll admit, even at this age, I'm still chatty and tend to talk a lot. But you know, you used to say you loved how fun my stories were. Quiet, reserved Tom and talkative me. We used to be like puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly. But somewhere along the way, the gears of our relationship started grinding against each other. Now he can't stand listening to me, and we barely even eat together anymore. He used to be a bread for breakfast guy too. I remembered something he said when we were newlyweds.
I'm a bread for breakfast kind of person.
So, I switched to bread to suit his tastes. When did you become an oatmeal for breakfast person? People's preferences change as they get older. But unless he tells me, even after all these years of marriage, I can't possibly know. And now, Tom seems to hate talking to me altogether, leaving me completely in the dark. Just talk to me properly. Looking at the untouched bread and coffee left on the table, I felt a wave of sadness and wiped my eyes roughly. 30 years of marriage, and our relationship had grown ice cold. While I worried and pondered how to fix things, Tom couldn't care less. Facing the end like this would just be way too lonely. The retirement I had imagined was filled with days of happiness spent together as a couple. The gap between that dream and reality felt painfully wide. Well, no point moping about it. The weather's too nice to stay down. I should go out too. With no one to talk to, I found myself talking to myself more often these days. With a determined, ugh, I got up and... Oh no, this kind of thing just makes me seem even more like an old lady. All right, here we go. Nope, I can't let myself say ugh out loud anymore. I reminded myself of this and tried to say something more upbeat as I stood up. My movements feel way more like ugh than anything else ugh. Stepping outside, I realized I had nowhere in particular to go. If we had kids or grandkids, it might be a different story, but unfortunately, Tom and I never had children. It wasn't something we actively avoided. It was just how things turned out, and I don't regret it. My brother and his wife have 3 kids, so we never felt pressured by our parents to provide grandchildren. Our nieces and nephews are adorable, but having children is a blessing, not a guarantee. The stork just never came to our house, and that's that. Still, that's why I always thought Tom and I would spend our later years happily together. Life doesn't always go as planned. Oh, I know, I could buy a new hat. As I mulled over what to do, I suddenly remembered something I wanted. Maybe I'll catch a movie while I'm at it. I didn't know what was playing, but I figured I'd stop by the theater and watch whatever was showing. It was a hobby I'd loved during my single days. I quickly picked out a hat and bought it, then headed to the big movie theater near the store. Wow, they're showing so many movies. From classic kids' animations to sci-fi, romance, Hollywood blockbusters, and indie films, the theater had so many screens that the selection was overwhelming. Which one should I pick? The reason I raised my voice wasn't because I was excited about an incredibly interesting movie. In fact, it had nothing to do with the movie at all. It was because I spotted someone familiar. Wait, is that Tom? Sure enough, far off in the theater, I saw my husband, Tom. What's the deal? If he wanted to see a movie, he could have invited me. Didn't he just say there weren't any movies he wanted to watch? Just as I was about to hurry over to him, my steps came to a halt. Who is that? Tom wasn't alone. Standing next to my husband was a woman. She was linking arms with him in a very familiar way. From a distance, they looked like a married couple. The woman, who looked young enough to pass as his wife, was clearly younger than me. She seemed to be in her 30s. Not exactly a young woman, but certainly much younger than me. She was chatting with Tom in a cheerful, intimate way. He was smiling back at her warmly. He never smiles at me like that anymore. When was the last time I saw him smile like that? The expression on my husband's face, one I had almost forgotten, was now right in front of me. But it wasn't directed at me. It was for another woman. Unbelievable. After that, I don't really remember much. I'm not even sure how I walked home, but before I knew it, I was back. Ugh. A meaningless, strange sound escaped my lips. I slumped on the couch, staring at the ceiling. So he's cheating, huh? It was a shock, no doubt. But maybe deep down, I'd already suspected it. His recent cold attitude, the constant solo outings, perhaps a part of me had seen this coming. What should I do now? I felt like there was a list of choices popping up in my mind. The options were 1. Divorce, 2. Separation, 3. Pretend nothing's wrong and stay married, 4. Divorce. Wait, why is divorce listed twice? I let out a sigh. Maybe my mind was already made up. The real question was how to bring it up to Tom. I wrestled with the thought. But before I could come to a decision, bad news struck again. What, Dad? A call from my brother turned my world upside down. Our father had collapsed and was in critical condition. I rushed to the hospital, but despite my desperate prayers, he passed away. His final words to my brother, my mother, and me were,
"Be happy, all of you. I'll be watching over you from the other side."
I suppose I should consider myself lucky to have heard his parting words. But the reality that I would never see his eyes open or hear his voice again hit me hard. I clung to him, sobbing uncontrollably. I never thought I could cry this much at my age. But I did, more than I ever imagined. And before I even had time to process my grief, life became a whirlwind of chaos. My mother was even more devastated than I was, so my sister-in-law and her kids stayed close to support her. My brother was swamped with funeral arrangements. I was busy helping out, leaving no time to properly mourn. Of course, I contacted Tom about it, but his response was a cold dismissal.
The funeral? I can't go. I've got too much important work to deal with. I can't afford to take time off. Besides, it's not like he was my parent. You guys handle it yourselves.
What? That's just too much. Sure, Tom and my father didn't have the closest relationship, but they weren't complete strangers either. And yet, that attitude, not even showing up for the funeral? As his harsh words replayed in my mind, the image of the woman I'd seen at the movie theater flickered before my eyes. Tom was probably enjoying himself with that woman, taking advantage of my absence. At that moment, a feeling similar to anger began to simmer within me. A fiery rage ignited in my chest. What should I do about this? The funeral for my father that followed was a whirlwind of sadness, anger toward Tom, and a jumble of other emotions. Well, I'm so furious. After everything was over, I returned home late at night, utterly exhausted. What greeted me at the door was his words, pouring fuel on the fire of my anger. The moment he saw me, he said,
"Oh, you're back. So, how much is the inheritance?"
First, he should say hi, then maybe, "You must be exhausted," and at least throw in a "sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral." But I was too drained to even argue. Thinking, what a piece of work, I headed toward my room. As I dragged my feet back, His next words made me want to block my ears entirely.
Well, your dad's finally gone. Bet you're relieved, huh? Old folks shouldn't live too long. It's better for their kids if they kick the bucket early. Anyway, let me know how much the inheritance is once you figure it out.
Oh no, we're done. When I first found out about his affair, there was still some love left for him. But in that instant, it evaporated completely. If I weren't so exhausted, I probably would have grabbed him by the neck and screamed my head off. Heaven? Not a chance. This is hell, and the devil's here in my living room. But I was too tired. I didn't have the energy or willpower to do anything. All I could manage was glaring at him with bloodshot eyes. The man who said those things, however, had already turned his attention to his phone, humming while tapping away on it. Why won't that phone just explode right now? Despite my silent wish, no such accident occurred, and I had no choice but to retreat to my room. Damn it, my love for him has completely dried up, and all I feel is disgust now. I couldn't stand even seeing his face, so I adjusted my breakfast schedule to avoid him. But, true to form for someone having an affair, he didn't seem to care at all. He went to work without a second thought and came home late at night after already having dinner elsewhere. It's obvious. No, it's definite that he's spending time with the other woman. By avoiding him in the mornings and evenings, naturally, there was zero conversation between us. I need to find a lawyer and start preparing for divorce proceedings. One day, as I was mulling this over, something happened. On a lazy weekend morning, I went into the kitchen a bit later than usual and found him drinking coffee. Ugh. The sound slipped out. It was my honest reaction. However, my husband didn't seem to care at all. He didn't even notice that it had been a long time since we'd last seen each other or spoken, and he started talking to me as if nothing had happened.
Hey, how much is the inheritance? Hurry up and tell me already.
First, try saying good morning. Then stop with the nonsense. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. His arrogant tone made me snap inside. A flurry of snarky comebacks formed in my head, one after another. There are so many things I want to say, I can't even get the words out.
Don't stay quiet. Tell me how much the inheritance is.
You don't need to know.
I'm your husband. I have a right to know.
Oh, shut up. It's $2 million, but it's none of your business.
Yes, I knew it. Your dad was a former executive at a big corporation. I figured he'd leave at least that much.
Like I said, it's none of your business.
Now that I know, I've got no use for you anymore. Later.
Wait, what? Unbelievable. My husband, clearly only hearing what he wanted to, walked out without bothering to listen to the rest of what I was saying. For the last time, no matter how much my inheritance is, it has nothing to do with you. He's obviously aware that inheritance isn't considered marital property. He must still think his affair is under wraps and that we'll continue as husband and wife. He's probably planning to use it for himself somehow. I'm absolutely getting a divorce. Now I need to find an excellent lawyer. With his affair being so obvious, the divorce will definitely work in my favor. There shouldn't be any hesitation from the lawyers I approach. But knowing Tom, he'll likely try to make things difficult, so I need the best lawyer I can find. They say divorce is harder than marriage, and it's true, I muttered, letting out a sigh. A month later, on a weekend when I was finally preparing to discuss things with my Tom, he went out alone as usual. There's no longer any need to guess. He's definitely meeting with his mistress. Not that I care anymore. I decided that tonight, when he got home, I'd bring up the divorce. As I was sorting through some documents at the desk, a sudden deafening roar startled me so badly I nearly fell off my chair. What the heck? Did one of the neighbors get a loud car, or is it some passing biker gang? Rushing to the window to see what was going on, I was stunned. Wait, here? A bright red luxury car was pulling into my driveway. The house, inherited from my husband's parents, has a fairly spacious garage. But since neither of us ever cared much about cars, we've only ever had a small, simple car parked there. Now, right next to that little car, this high-end sports car had taken up residence. We weren't expecting any visitors, and I don't know anyone who drives something like that. Did someone just park here without permission? Hurrying to the garage in front of the house, I froze in shock. What is this? This level of surprise is almost too much to handle. It was my husband who stepped out of the roaring car, and standing next to him was a familiar woman. The very woman he's been having an affair with. What on earth is going on? Shocked, I demanded an explanation. My husband smirked, pulled the woman closer by her waist, and said,
Holly, you're useless to me now.
What? What ridiculous thing is he about to say this time? As I stared at him suspiciously, he smirked again. Gross.
I have no use for an old, washed-up wife in her 50s like you. I've completely lost interest in you. So yeah, we're getting divorced.
For some reason, he said it with a weird sense of pride, even punctuating it with a dramatic point in my direction like he'd just delivered the punchline of a joke. Gross, gross just to emphasize, gross. Gross. Oops, did I just say that out loud? But to him, it must have sounded like a desperate retort.
That's right. A loser like you can only manage such pathetic comebacks. But that doesn't matter because I found true love.
True what now?
Love, true love.
Sorry, but can I just say gross again? I think I might gag. Mistaking my stunned silence for shock, he continued smugly.
Ha! So shocked you can't even speak, huh? Well, this is the truth. Listen up. I'm divorcing you.
What?
And then I'm going to marry this amazing woman.
He turned to his mistress with a triumphant look, so I gave him a response. Then?
And as part of our marital property division, I'll be taking $1 million.
What? What on earth is he talking about now? Why 1 million? We don't even have that much in savings.
You're so dumb, it's almost impressive.
Oh, so now you're the expert on the intelligence of the entire galaxy?
You got an inheritance of $2 million, didn't you? When we divorce, I have the right to half of it.
Completely ignoring my comment, he kept going, clearly excited to make his big declaration. What is he even saying? Is he serious? Does he not know the basics of inheritance law at 56 years old? Judging by his smug face, he genuinely didn't know. Look, that inheritance is.
Hurry up and pay up. I bought this car expecting that $1 million.
What? Even I was shocked by my husband's bombshell statement, especially since he didn't bother listening to anything I had to say. Wait, you bought this car expecting to use my money? Even as a layperson, I can tell this car must have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And I also purchased a new house for me and my beautiful new wife to live in.
A house?
That's right, a house.
Oh my god, a 50-something-year-old man just made a dad joke. Even the mistress standing next to him is cringing. Seriously, are you sure you want to marry this guy? Not that it's worth asking. You're probably not in your right mind either. Let's be real. Why would a gorgeous woman in her 30s marry a man in his 50s? The reason is obvious. Money. Sure, I know there are age gap couples who marry for true love. They exist. I'm not denying that. But with these two, not a chance. My husband is completely smitten, but her eyes are cold and distant. As a fellow woman, I can tell those aren't the eyes of someone in love. And my instincts are screaming that she's only here for the money. Funny how gut feelings like this are rarely wrong.
By the way, the money for the house will come from the remainder of the $2 million after paying for the car, along with the proceeds from selling this house, which I inherited from my parents.
Wait, you're selling this house?
Exactly.
That's enough. Tom didn't notice the icy tension between me and his mistress. It seemed he was completely caught up in his own excitement. So he thinks he'll get my inheritance, divorce me, and marry his mistress all in one go. Makes sense now. Clearly, the mistress doesn't know the first thing about inheritance laws either. Still cringing at his awful jokes, she clung to his arm and turned to me with a smug smile.
So, that's the plan. Why don't you hurry up, leave the money, and get out of here? If you don't, you'll lose the house.
Excuse me, but your relationship is clearly inappropriate, considering we're not even divorced yet. And let me be clear, the one entitled to compensation here is me, not you. You're not getting a dime. How are they managing to look so smug? They're practically shouting, "We're having an affair," and yet somehow think they're in the right. I guess they're a good match, but honestly, is this couple going to be okay? Apparently, he had no intention of giving me any money, because he said this.
This divorce is your fault, so why would I pay you anything?
Wow, are you serious? But then a thought occurred to me. Wait a minute. I've been agonizing over how to bring up the divorce, but now that he's the one who mentioned it, we can finally talk about it. This actually works out great. He's under the delusion that he'll get my inheritance and doesn't need to pay alimony, but I'll let him stay clueless for now. Why? Because dealing with his nonsense is just too much of a hassle. He's definitely going to make a fuss, throw a tantrum, and cause problems. Fine, let's get divorced. And just like that, we were divorced. Actually, as soon as we signed the divorce papers, Tom wasted no time submitting them to the local government office. I watched him do it. My ex, his mistress, and I all went to the office together and returned together. The moment we got home, my ex said,
Hurry up and move out, and transfer the money right away.
I handed him a business card from the lawyer I'd hired for the divorce negotiations.
What's this?
It's my lawyer's card. We may be divorced, but any discussions about money will go through them. I'll make my requests the same way. At that, my ex shouted.
What? A lawyer? You've been planning for this too?
Maybe because you were cheating? If anyone was planning for divorce, it was you.
I wasn't planning to divorce you, but when I realized luckily I'd get some money out of it, I figured, why not?
You deserve to rot in hell. What do you mean, lucky? My father's passing was lucky for you. Get out of here with that nonsense. My disdain for my ex-husband only grew. You found true love, right? At least have the decency to pay alimony.
Fine, whatever. With the inheritance and the money from selling this house, I'll have enough.
Are you serious right now? Barely able to contain my laughter, I said to my completely clueless ex. Yes, I did inherit $2 million, but not a single cent of it is going to you.
What?
The long pause in his response showed his ignorance. The mistress standing beside him looked equally lost. So, being the kind and generous soul I am, I decided to explain it to them. Marital property includes assets that were built together during the marriage. In our case, that's things like savings and the car. Got it?
Wait, what about the $2 million you inherited?
Inheritance isn't something we acquired together as a couple, so you have no claim to it. Similarly, the house you inherited from your parents isn't something I have a claim to.
No way! You're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding. This is basic common sense. Seriously, you're in your 50s and didn't know this? His face turned pale. Maybe he never had the chance to learn about these things. But come on, it's 2024. He could have Googled it. He should have checked if he was entitled to an inheritance. Beside him, the mistress was starting to panic as well.
Wait, what does that mean?
Clearly, she'd never had a chance to learn about this either. How pitiful.
Hey, Teddy, what's going on here?
Even as his mistress tugged on his arm, my ex-husband was lost in thought and didn't respond. She calls him Teddy? That's disgusting. After some deep thinking, my ex-husband suddenly looked up at me and said,
Wait, hold on. What about the car loan payments?
Use the money from selling the house.
That's nowhere near enough. And what about the loan for the new house?
Not my problem.
I bought a luxury condo counting on that $1 million.
I'm telling you, I don't care. Unbelievable. What was this man even thinking? Apparently, both the car and the house were bought on loans. But surely he needed a down payment for either of them, right? Wait a minute. You'd need at least a down payment for the car and house. How did you manage that? Mike, it seemed, had been banking on my inheritance and the money from selling the house. But since he didn't actually have access to either, how had he made those purchases?
Obviously, I used all our savings.
What? That's marital property. He used the money we'd been saving for retirement?
And it still wasn't enough, so Mia chipped in.
It seemed the mistress's name was Mia. Not that I cared.
And when that still wasn't enough, I took out a loan from a finance company.
Are you insane?
I thought I could pay it back quickly.
Unbelievable. What was this man doing to our lives? I already knew he was a mess from the affair, but this confirmed it. My ex-husband was truly out of his mind. This is the worst. You're paying me back half the savings you blew and alimony for your affair.
I can't afford that.
Sell this car. Use that money to pay me.
I have to pay off the car loan, the house loan, and now the finance company loan first.
I've told you 100 times, that's not my problem. This was rock bottom. 30 years of marriage, and I hadn't realized just how stupid this man was. I wanted my 30 years back. As Mia stood silently, watching us bicker, she seemed frozen in shock. It looked like she was finally starting to understand what was happening. Mia grabbed my ex-husband's arm and shouted,
Wait, you don't have any money? Teddy, what about the money? You said that old lady's $1 million and the money from selling this dump would be enough. We're supposed to live in the condo and drive this fancy car all around the country, right?
What a fantasy. That's not something a man like him could ever deliver. My ex-husband, still in shock, didn't respond even as Mia shook him violently. So, I decided to explain. That old lady's $1 million isn't going to you too. The only money you'll get is from selling this dump of a house. But from that, you'll have to pay back the savings you used and the alimony for your affair.
How much will be left?
Who knows? I shrugged nonchalantly. If they understood the situation, they'd realize not only would nothing be left, they'd be in the red.
What about my $20,000 savings? You said you'd pay it back as soon as you got the money. Teddy, old man.
Wow. She must have just realized that calling him Teddy wasn't going to cut it anymore. She had resorted to old man. That's when my ex finally snapped out of his daze. He grabbed my arm and exclaimed,
Holly, we can't get divorced. Let's go back to the office and cancel it. We'll stay married, and you can help me pay off the loans for the finance company, the car, and the condo.
No way. Why should I do that?
Come on, let's live in the luxury condo together. You can even drive the car.
Nope. I'm terrified of heights, so a high-rise condo is out of the question. Besides, driving a big car like that terrifies me, and there's no way I'd want anything so loud. Come to think of it, isn't a car this noisy borderline illegal? As I glared at him, silently demanding he let go of my arm, Mia yanked on his other arm.
Hold on, old man. Why are you planning to live in the condo with her? That condo and car are mine.
Shut up. You were just a fling. I'm going to live a rich life with Holly.
You've got to be kidding me. Who'd seriously take an oily old man like you seriously? I only played along because I thought you were rich. Now hand over the car, the condo, and my money back.
Wow, this is a disaster. My ex and Mia started a vicious argument, completely forgetting I was even there. As their fight escalated, it looked like it might turn physical. I quietly took out my phone and called the police for help. A few minutes later, the officers arrived, and I couldn't miss one of them saying, "Oh wow," as they took in the scene. Both my ex and Mia were so agitated that they even mouthed off to the officers.
Who do you think you're talking to?
They sounded like gangsters. The officers decided to bring them both to the station to calm things down. My ex and Mia were put into separate police cars, still worked up, as they were taken away. While they were gone, I hurriedly packed my things. For the time being, I decided to stay at my parents' house. Well, finally, some peace. Afterward, I signed a lease for one of the new places I'd been considering for my post-divorce life and moved in. I left all dealings with my ex-husband to my lawyer. While my ex and Mia weren't arrested, my lawyer ensured that they were instructed not to contact me. The two of them inevitably broke up. Of course, in a very messy fashion. Mia was demanding that my ex repay her money, but naturally he had no way of doing so. Meanwhile, my ex was begging me to take him back, which was of course not going to happen. When I told him I was prepared to take him to court to demand alimony and repayment of the savings he used, he scraped together the money by selling the house. As for what happened to him afterward, he predictably ended up completely lost. He rushed to sell both the car and the luxury condo, but they sold for far less than the purchase prices, leaving him with a huge deficit. He prioritized repaying the finance company, but given the high interest rates, he was left with nothing. Or rather, he was left with a pile of debt. I also heard Mia was suing him for fraud, but since I had also filed an alimony claim against her, my lawyer was swamped with work. Thankfully, they were a highly skilled professional, and everything worked out smoothly in the end. It cost me some money, but I think my dad, who always wanted me to be happy, would have approved of how I used my inheritance. Dad, who wished for my happiness until the very end, I'm determined to live a happy life from now on. Just as I was reflecting on this, my ex called me. I hadn't planned on answering, but since the call came from a payphone, I couldn't tell who it was. Given all the calls I'd been receiving from lawyers and various services for my new life, I'd gotten into the habit of picking up unknown numbers.
I'm drowning in debt. Please help me.
You can live even if you have debt.
No, that's not what I mean. Come on, I realize you're the only one for me. I need you.
Do you remember what you said when my dad passed away?
What did I say?
You said, old folks shouldn't stick around too long. It's better for their kids. We don't have kids, but I'll give that sentiment right back to you.
Wait, what?
Goodbye.
Wait, Holly, hold on a sec.
Knowing that continuing the conversation was pointless, I hung up. Then I turned off my phone and went straight to the phone company. Why, you ask? To change my number, of course. I only gave my new number to people who needed it. After that, I never heard from my ex again. Later, I heard rumors that he joined a fishing boat crew, started working shady jobs in the nightlife scene, or even ended up in jail. But honestly, I don't care which, if any of those is true. He's no longer a part of my life. I never imagined I'd be single again in my 50s, but hey, I'm still in my 50s. Maybe I'll meet someone new, or maybe I'll just enjoy being single. I'm spending more time with my mom, who's still mourning the loss of her partner, and I think it'll be lovely for the two of us to enjoy our later years together. My new place is close to my childhood home, near my mom and my brother's family. I don't think my later years will be lonely. Life is just getting started. The sky I looked up at was a brilliant blue,